The Nuggets will take on the Boston Celtics tonight at 5:30 p.m. as they're out there on the Eastern Seaboard. The NBA trade deadline has come and gone. The Nuggets stand pat, no moves other than signing Boogie Cousins to his second 10-day contract. And because of that, we are joined by Nuggets president of basketball operations, Tim Connelly. Tim, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You guys decide not to make any moves yesterday. Was that by design, or were there things happening that just kind of fell through the cracks?
You're always trying to make moves. We had some pretty interesting conversations. We could just never get it over the goal line. We made a move a couple weeks ago, bringing Britton Forbes in. We certainly have some needs that we were trying to address yesterday. We were looking at pieces not just for the next 30 games, but how they can help moving into next year and beyond. And unfortunately, we didn't get anything done.
Tim, I don't know what it feels like in your shoes, because you're known for taking chances. Last year, of course, the Aaron Gordon deal was awesome for Aaron and for the Nuggets. When you go through a trade deadline and you don't pull off a move, whether it be small or blockbuster, do you feel disappointed, or is it, hey, this is part of the business?
I'd be disingenuous to say there's at times disappointment when you're working on something you think you can make the team better. You also, I think we're fortunate. It's been an uneven year as expected with all the injuries. I think our guys done a great job. Coach Malone and staff have been A+. But when you look at the team, you're trying to be as brutally honest as possible, and you say, what do we need? What do we need to add? And when you try to address those needs at a trade deadline, you're not able to get it done. Certainly there's at times a sense of a little bit of disappointment. But, it's part of the industry. We like our core. Fingers crossed we're going to add to that core sooner rather than later with the return of Michael Porter and Jamal Murray. But it's a fun day, but certainly, you have all these concepts, and some of them are really cool. You get really excited about, and very rarely these concepts become actionable.
That's my follow-up, Tim. Everybody, every day, the question is, when is Jamal coming back? When is Michael Porter Jr. coming back? I'm sure you don't really know the answer to that. I'm not sure if they know the answer to that. But is it fair to say they will come back this season? Is that a fair assessment?
It's up to them. We've been extremely happy with how both have attacked rehab. It could not have gone better for either one thus far. We don't want to put any time frame on those guys. Ultimately, they'll know when they can play. When we'll physically clear them at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future. And then it's, hey man, how do you feel? I think, our organization takes a lot of pride in treating our players as colleagues and empowering them. And no one's going to have a bigger say when they return to the court than Jamal and Michael.
Tim, again, I think that because the return, you still don't know exactly when, that sort of thing. It's a very fluid situation for your club, and I can understand your frustration if some of these deals did not get done. But we were talking about it earlier. Because you've got two max guys returning, hopefully, theoretically, but those guys are competitors, and if they're feeling good, to me, you're one of the most intriguing clubs out there, period. I mean, you're hanging in there. You're in the six. But you get those guys back, and if it goes right, I mean, hell, I think anything's a possibility. Is that part of the thing that helps buoy, your outlook on your basketball club in a year that's had so much uncertainty?
Yeah, I think the key this year was really understanding how much we're missing, and not just Michael and Jamal. The P.J. Dozier injury was really impactful because of his versatility on both ends. And how do we make decisions for the short and long term that don't adversely affect what our team would look like when fully healthy? And I don't know if we've done that wisely. I think certainly we haven't been perfect with anything we've done, but it's been challenging to try to understand what is coming back without knowing when they're going to come back, but appreciate that the core group that we have, we think is as good as anybody. We think our coach staff's as good as it gets in the NBA. So our long-term outlook is fantastic. It's been a up and down, a rocky year at times, but I'm really proud of how our coaches and players have responded. And fingers crossed, when those guys come back, they're better than ever.
Nuggets president of basketball operations Tim Connelly is our guest on the El Mayor Tequila Guest Hotline today. Tim, you guys re-sign DeMarcus Cousins to his second 10-day contract for the team. He's played 5 games for the Nuggets this year. Is there anything that you guys are looking for out of his game to kind of take that next step out of a 10-day contract? Or have you been pleased with what he's brought to the court thus far?
No, he's been great. He's been fantastic. I think we're 5-0 in games he's played. He's brought a really well-liked guy in the locker room. The 10 days allow for additional flexibility, which was important going into yesterday, having that roster spot. But DeMarcus has been fantastic. I think he's such a uniquely skilled player. Him and Coach Malone have a special relationship, which has allowed him to hit the ground running and really quickly acclimate to the locker room. So just fingers crossed we can continue with that upward trajectory, and he continues to really provide an impact as a legit low post guy. A guy can step out and make shots. So it's been good so far.
Tim, the way the buyout market works, it's taken on a life of its own in this league. So can you explain when a team decides to do the buyout, why a team would, and then how the opposing, like if you take on a buyout contract, how much do you owe that player? Do you negotiate a side contract? How does that work?
Yeah, it has. It's almost become a secondary trade market, which, my very biased opinion, I think it's not great for the league if the expectations of buyout are so consistent. So, for example, you're looking for a backup 5, and some agent calls, they don't trade for that guy because he's at a place he doesn't want to be. I'm just going to get a buyout. So I think it kind of slows the trade market a bit in a sense that's not productive for the league. So I'm not a huge fan of it. Relative to how the contract works, most buyout guys, the team will say, hey, we owe you X. If you can go get $700,000, less than what we owe you, that'll be the buyout. Go sign a minimum contract for the rest of the year. So there's been some instances where the buyout guys have been very impactful. I think for a large part, it's oftentimes as much to do about nothing when you really study the market pretty closely. But it is. It's become, a secondary addition to the trade deadline. You'll see a lot of movement. Certainly it'll be a market we watch closely if we think someone can come in and help us. We'll try to find a player like that. But it's become a bit too much. I think way too many guys wake up this morning who are on expiring deals and are able to say, I'm unhappy, buy me out. And I don't know if that's kind of the spirit of the contract.
So, I mean, you just acknowledged then, you're not saying whether or not you will go to the buyout market, but you would be willing to dip your toes if a player presented himself that would help your team at some point this season.
No, absolutely. No, it's the minute, 101 yesterday, you're trying to take track of all the different trades, see updated depth charts, see updated financials, see what motivations teams might have, not just now, but in the offseason. And then the buyout list was the next thing we did.
See, Tim, and that's the way I look at it, too. Vic, he's got to be a toe dipper. You can't not be a toe dipper. You've always got to dip. But the question is, do you dip when, other teams haven't dipped? I mean, how much do you pay attention to what other teams in not only your division but your conference have or have not done to sort of figure out what you need to and do not need to do? Does that play a factor in it?
It certainly does. I think this year it's a little more unique with what we have on the sidelines in Michael and Jamal, where it's not as clear what we can and should do. The one thing we didn't want to do yesterday is do anything that could potentially hurt us going into next season. We think again, fingers crossed. When Michael and Jamal come back, whether it's this year or next year, we expect them to be full bore and full blast. So how do we put ourselves in a position to really maximize our core group? But we've already had a bunch of conversations with potential buyout guys. We have a little bit of flexibility around the peripheral of our roster. And if the player is good enough and can help us, certainly we'll look into it.
Tim, last one from me. And you know how much.
Vic, are you in LA right now?
Yeah, I'm here at Super Bowl, bro. I'm just
nice.
Partying. I went to the Little John concert last night, man. You would have loved it.
What's Little John's catchphrase if you really went? What was his catchphrase?
What?
Yeah, all right.
Come on,
that's one of them. I'll give you that.
That's one of them.
You passed.
I just got a text about a party on Saturday at WWE, invite-only party for Super Bowl weekend. You got to go.
I don't do the wrestling, dude. I don't. Do the
You have a
I'm
wrestling
sorry.
mask that you brought with you
wore
to
it.
I know I
the trip.
brought
What are
one.
you talking
I did,
about?
But I don't do that, man. I just do red carpets.
Put the
Tim. I get
stretchy pants
invited
on
red
and go to the
carpets.
damn party.
I pose.
Triple
I
H and
pose.
Dusty Rhodes. Go.
I just know. But I got to ask you. Yes, I am live here at Media Row. When it comes to the long term and the short term, you are right now in the thick of a wonderful career. You got Nikola Jokic, the MVP on your team. Are you sensitive to the fact that you're trying to assemble as much talent around him as fast as you can during his prime? Is that the way you look at this, or are you more patient when it comes to making a run at a championship with this team?
No, I think it's the latter. I think when you look at Nikola, soon to be 27, you look at Aaron, Jamal, Michael, a bunch of guys we have and the success we've had. Mo has been a complete rock star as a head coach, getting this whole thing going and leading this team. I think it would be irresponsible if we don't do as much as possible next couple of years to put the best team around Nikola.
Great. That's what I figured. Wish you were out here, Tim. I need a running
there's
mate.
a UCLA USC game tomorrow night. Maybe I'll figure out a reason to come out there.
Ooh, nice.
We just got to get
So
you
if
a
you're not going to come
babysitter
to
out
the
there. Vic.
WWE event with me,
No, dude. I'm not doing it. Sorry.
why? It'd be fun.
Thanks, buddy.
It's at a restaurant. It'd be great.
No, I got more important matters. I got other
It's not a
concerts.
steel
other
cage match.
venues.
It's you get to hear stories from Jake Roberts and all the old timers. It's great.
Man, come on.
Just give me 2 claps and a woo, man. That's all we need.
That's it.
No thanks. You're the best, Tim. Appreciate your
Thanks,
time,
guys.
as usual.
Great to hear from you
All right,
guys
man.
in a long time. Thank you.
Thanks, TC.
Take care.
Tim Connelly, Nuggets president of basketball operations, courtesy of the El Mayor Tequila guest hotline.
And see, Vic, because there's, again, I love the confidence that he said, guys, it's up to them, but we think they can come back. We think they'll be back.
That's the news of the day.
I mean,
News of the
that's-
day,
Oh, yeah.
as he said,
That's
quote,
friggin'
he said,
huge.
in the not-too-distant future, and you hear that and you perk up because that means it feels sort of imminent, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
feels imminent, and then they got to take it from there.
Yeah, I mean that maybe they'll get on their own timeline here soon instead of like, okay, this is a mandated timeline. We're not going to allow you back. That you'll be on your own timeline when you feel like you're ready to play. Then let's go. But again, it's going to be a lot on the player and a lot on their body. But that made me feel very, very encouraged. And it also makes a hell of a lot of sense while they sniffed around, they put the toe in the water. They didn't do anything yesterday. It didn't make sense for this basketball team. So it's pretty interesting to me.
And as we talked about yesterday, guys, obviously the Harden and the Simmons trade going down between Brooklyn and Philadelphia is massive. 2 marquee name players in this league trading teams. But I still stand by what I said yesterday. If you're able to add both Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. for a playoff run, that's better than anything any other team around the league could have added yesterday before the deadline. Like Vic said it earlier, if both of those guys are back, do you really want to face those guys and a possible back-to-back MVP in Nikola Jokic? No shot you want to. You go from being a team that, like, the breadth of possibilities for the Nuggets this year is as wide of a set of goalposts as you can have. If those guys don't come back, you could get bounced in 5 games in the first round. If they do, it wouldn't surprise me if they made a run at an NBA championship.
If the Nuggets were bounced. All right, Marty, turn them off for a second, please. I'm not going to go through this, Jeff. Thank you.
See, that's the difference between Lil Jon and Little John. Was that last
Yes.
what?
Yay!
Affirmative.
I went to the Little John show last night. It was fun.